Hi, this is Mike O'Brien. I'm Senior Content Manager for Multi-Channel Merchant and a programmer for the Operations Summit. And I'm coming to you from my decidedly low-tech home studio, but we're going to be talking today about a very technical subject, blockchain. And blockchain is something that's been getting a lot of attention lately in the area of supply chain in terms of creating ways to have greater visibility, greater control, and making sure that there's data security and things can be shared across different entities, throughout the supply chain. And it's something that's also being talked about a lot more, particularly in the area of e-commerce and retail supply chain. And again, a very technical subject, but fortunately we have some with us today who can help unpack and give us a little better understanding about blockchain. So I wanted to introduce Melanie Noose, who's the Senior Vice President of Corporate Development for GS1. So Melly, let's start out, just talk a little bit at kind of like a basic level about the concept of blockchain for people who are, they're not really familiar with it. So give us a little bit of a background on it.
Sure. I think at its simplest, the simplest way to understand blockchain is to think of it in two parts. The first is a shared ledger. So the very notion of blockchain, which is not new, right? Shared ledger, we understand the concept of shared databases. But what's kind of novel about blockchain is that it's a distributed ledger. So you take those database records and you multiply them across many, many nodes. And depending on whether you're talking about a public blockchain like Bitcoin, you probably have tens of thousands or maybe even hundreds of thousands of nodes that have a copy of that ledger. In a private blockchain or a permission blockchain, that's more how we would use it at an enterprise level, you're probably going to have fewer nodes, but the idea is that every organization in that chain shares a copy of the data, which means that if an organization fails, if there's a technical failure, you don't lose that ledger. Very important. The second part that's really kind of a cool thing about blockchain, certainly for when we're looking at it for supply chain and business applications, is smart contracts. So the first public blockchains that came out, it was very straightforward, a transaction between you and I, and of course it was using Bitcoin. As we started to see the technology advance, smart contracts, which are the validation rules that allow a transaction to be written to the ledger, were pulled off of the ledger and given their own sort of level of technology and sophistication. And so you and I now as trading partners, where in the past, we were doing a lot of handshaking, a lot of negotiating on paper, we can actually write into our smart contracts the rules about how things should happen, which allows the ledger to help enforce good behavior. So I think that's probably the two basic aspects of a blockchain that are important for us in the business-to-business world to understand. I guess the only other piece I'd add, which is a blockchain doesn't have to be public. And so a lot of people in our industry have been a little bit nervous because they hear about Bitcoin and they hear about it's anonymous and you don't know who's out there and they might have access to your data. Blockchain is very secure in the way that technology companies are looking to put it forward for business use or for enterprises. And I think that's an important distinction to understand.
Okay, great. The next question is talk about how blockchain can foster interoperability among supply chain trading partners.
One of the things that we find most exciting, so when we say what blockchain has done for trading partners, for supply chain communities, is it's reinvigorated the conversation around data sharing. And where I feel like we all implemented some great EDI transactions a couple decades ago and we're exchanging purchase orders and invoices and ship notices, a couple of things haven't happened. We haven't moved the conversation to people who traditionally haven't contributed to the data sharing in the past. So think about upstream, right? Your component materials, your raw materials, if you're in food, the agriculturalists who are involved in your supply chain. And think downstream to the consumer. The consumer has put so much pressure on us as an industry to provide information. I want it at my fingertips. I want the provenance. Where did my item come from? Did it follow a good path to get to me, right? Is it truly made in the USA? Those types of things that a consumer wants to know. Blockchain has reinvigorated our interest in having a fully transparent supply chain to people who have a right to know, right? Not to bad actors, but certainly to those involved. So the shared ledger means everyone gets to participate. It means everybody gets real-time access to the data. And I think that's really different than legacy ways of sharing data where we waited till the end of the day, we batched up transactions and we sent it and hoped it got to them before the truck arrived at their receiving dock. This is about timely communication of information to the entire suite of parties that needs to know about it. So I think that the technology itself, which certainly, right, we're in a very burgeoning stage for blockchain. It's growing rapidly. And I would say that it may not be at the scale that we understand our existing data sharing methods to be at, but it's going to get there a lot more quickly than we probably thought it would.
Okay, and actually that's a perfect setup for the next question, which is where GS1 comes in. And obviously you are very involved as like an industry organization, but also a standards body. So in particular with blockchain, what's the status of getting to industry standards that would help it really kind of scale and grow?
Well, I think it's sort of a two-part answer. The first is the pilots that we've seen, and probably many of you have either heard about Trace Your Turkey, which was something done at Thanksgiving, or the famous mango pilot for mangoes that were coming up from South America. One thing you probably have heard through exploration of these pilots and proofs of concept is there's pretty much an underlying thread of common issues that have come forward, which is foundational traceability is a prerequisite in order to achieve the benefits of blockchain. So GS1 standards, we have standards for identifying items, for identifying your logistical units, for serializing at all the levels of your supply chain, and for communicating data both at a transactional level or either at a physical product level if you want to get that granular. Those standards are there, that foundation is already in place. And so we've got to, as a community, this is where GS1 is coming in and supporting the advocacy to say, traceability doesn't work without a foundation of standards. And so blockchain is reliant upon that foundational traceability to succeed. The second part is blockchain itself right now is very much in an exploratory phase with most companies, right? We have people that are deploying on different types of Hyperledger, people that are putting Ethereum blockchain to test. And each one of these blockchain projects, while valuable in its own right, doesn't talk to any of the other blockchain projects. So as a standards organization, we have the unique opportunity to help bring community together to say, you know, you and I, we want solution choice, and I might go with solution partner A, and you might go with solution partner B. How do we ensure that we're all still going to be able to exchange data in a ledger-based world? And so that's really the role we've taken, is both advocacy for good foundational business processes and support for moving the standards forward to ensure interoperability as everybody looks to adopt this interesting technology.
Okay, and actually to that point, and you mentioned before the example of the mango from South America, and you're starting to see actually, you know, national advertising from IBM about their blockchain and you know, showing the product moving through different parts of the chain, and that it's, you know, the like you say, the provenance is the actual item that you ordered. How is the involvement of big players like Microsoft, IBM, Walmart, and then I've read recently on the shipping and cargo side, Maersk has also been involved, aided in trying to, you know, move the ball forward on this and get everybody kind of, you know, on that same page, and not have like 3 or 4 different platforms out there, and you know, you kind of have to kind of pick which is the best one for you.
One of the exciting things about this for me is that the involvement of the big players has allowed the conversation about how do we truly make this scale industry-wide or planetary-wide, if you will. Because certainly when you're talking about companies like IBM, Microsoft, and Maersk and Walmart, they have impact across the globe. So the awareness level, I would say, is extremely high. The interest level is extremely high. Those companies themselves are very committed to a universe that will allow for democratic participation, meaning, right, the coffee bean farmer, the mango farmer, the pork producer, for a company like Maersk in the shipping space, people that are shipping boxes and, right, full container loads or full ship loads. So they really want to see the involvement of everyone, because end-to-end visibility is only possible when we all do it. And so they have a very vested interest in making sure we can all take advantage of it. I think that the interesting part about these major players is that we're seeing an upfront acknowledgement of the need for ubiquity. So I need to make it possible for partners of all sizes and for companies of all sizes to be able to connect. There will have to be enablement tools, right? Not everyone is going to have the sophistication to write native blockchain applications, but you think about a farmer and the best benefit you could deliver to someone who's producing cotton, if you will, or someone who's growing berries, is that they can have a smartphone app that allows them to provide visibility data to their trading partners without having to fundamentally change everything that they're doing to maximize yield and cultivate their crop. That's one of the interesting things, is it's not just blockchain by itself, but it's all the other technology enablers that are coming onto the market today. And frankly, these companies that are leading the charge, they have the best set of resources and commitment to be able to do it. So it's truly valuable to the rest of us to be able to take advantage of their leadership.
Okay, and kind of bringing it more into our realm, are there particular applications or ways that it can work in the world of e-commerce and retail and omnichannel, or is it something that pretty much looks and acts the same no matter kind of what vertical category that blockchain is being applied to? And following on that, are there any companies in like retail and e-commerce that are taking a serious look at applying this to their organization?
Well, this gives me the chance to, I guess, be a little bit ambiguous, but a couple things, right? You mentioned Maersk in the last question. I would say that from a transportation perspective, that brand protection is a use case that very much interests the retail and e-commerce community. Ensuring that when a customer orders a product, that they're getting a legitimate brand authorized product and that it's coming from and to all the places it's supposed to go and not ending up diverted into a market it shouldn't be. I think that's a great use case that's being explored by people. I don't know of any public pilots or implementations that have been talked about in retail and e-commerce, but just to be a little bit provocative on the other side of this, there are some incredible applications of blockchain that are being looked at from the financial reconciliation side. So when you think of e-commerce and the fact that I can go on to a marketplace and buy something from you as a retailer who never took possession of that product, right? Because it's a seller that's going to drop ship it directly to me. The whole concept around payment reconciliation and dealing with returns can be very onerous, cumbersome, and time consuming. I think that a distributed ledger in this environment where the consumer may be having a conversation with the brand, who in turn needs to have a conversation with the retailer, there's likely a small package carrier involved, can really help to simplify a lot of those downstream reconciliation challenges that we face now, in order to ensure that things get paid on a timely basis and that inventory remains accurate and up to date on a real time basis as well. So I do think, while I feel it's in its nascent stages for a lot of our partners in the soft goods, retail, and general merchandise space, they're looking at some of these pioneers. So Mike, just to piggyback on what you said about, is it really horizontal? End-to-end visibility, I think, for any supply chain and any product category is a great place to start. However, if we start to see food or pharmaceuticals, which is doing a lot of work in blockchain, lead the way, we may be able to take what they've learned and very quickly apply it to some of those downstream processes that are more tied to the consumer, such as fulfillment of the each of one for every consumer out there that's buying things online.
Great. Thanks, Melody. This is really good stuff and very helpful information as you kind of go into depth on this. And she's going to be talking more on this subject of blockchain in a session she'll be leading at E-commerce Operations Summit, which is going to be held coming up pretty quick, April 3rd through the 5th in Columbus, Ohio. And her topic is, of course, blockchain. Is it the next best thing, or the next biggest thing in omnichannel? And maybe it's getting a little bit ahead, a little provocative, but as she said, it's something that's going to be coming and getting a lot of application and bringing a lot of benefits to the world of retail and e-commerce. And so hopefully you can make it out to the conference. There's going to be a lot of great speakers on topics like this, covering omnichannel, warehouse shipping, et cetera, and a lot of great networking with industry professionals. So hope you can make it out. And Melody, again, looking forward to seeing you out there and seeing the subject talked about there.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.